to our Reading Homeschool Connection Night for October, like the last day of October almost. So the topic for tonight is we're going to go over all sorts of different reading data that we've done in class, so you can kind of get an idea of where your child is in reading. We'll go over the benchmark, which we just took a couple weeks ago, and then at the end we'll have some time for different resources and different questions. So let's get started. Like I said, it's going to be, this workshop is designed to help you. The workshop is designed to help you kind of understand where your child is in their reading ability and how to help them improve, because regardless of their reading level, everyone can always get better. And you have the paper that you can feel free to take notes. There are the little buckets in the center of the table if you need something to write with. So feel free. And this presentation is uploaded onto my website already, and it's currently recording on YouTube, so you can always go back and check it out. So the agenda for this evening, first thing is I'm making a slight modification to the opportunity, the assessment policy. When we had our back to school night, I said that the students would have like the whole advisory to take the opportunities. What my fear was that they would wait until the end of the advisory to try to take all of them, and that came true. So it was a little overwhelming for the kids. It was very much overwhelming for me. So what we're going to modify that, I still want to have the student have a time frame so they can feel like they're most ready. So rather than saying the entire advisory, they'll have a 2-week span when they can take different opportunities rather than assessments or tests, and we'll get into why we're calling them opportunities. Those will be posted on the calendar on the website when they can start taking the opportunity to the end of that. I've already posted the dates for the Jamestown opportunity. They can start taking that on Monday, and they'll have about 1 to 2 weeks to take those opportunities. So, and the students will be made aware of that too. I just wanted to tell you guys first before I told them. So that'll stand for math opportunities, social studies opportunities. Reading opportunities will be a little bit more, this is when they're going to take them, because those are kind of done in class. And so that's that. Another thing that's been updated on the website, I sent out a class messenger update the other day. I added a thing on the website that's called current studies or current unit studies. I don't remember what the actual page is called, but that's going to be a really helpful thing. So if you're ever curious what we're actually learning in class in math, Virginia studies, or science, reading, we're kind of always doing reading, working on all the generalized, all the different comprehension strategies. It's kind of hard to do that. But if you go to that page, the current studies, that's going to have the subject area, the current topic, some questions you can ask your child to see what their level of understanding is. And then I also did give you the answers, so you don't have to search through to find the answers yourself. So that's on the website. It's like right next to the page that the flipped classroom videos are on. So that'll be a quick way, if you're ever curious what we're learning about and then how your child's doing, you can ask them. It's like 3 questions per subject area, just so you can figure out what they're doing. And then any feedback on flipping, the classroom flipping that you guys have for me, we have done it for now in advisory. In class, I've seen a lot of good things. It's helping the students have the background knowledge, so then in class we can really work on developing skills. So this is an open time for you to get feedback on it. I'm glad to hear that. Can you speak up?
I love it.
I think it works great for people that don't read very well.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to read anything to get it, right? So that makes it one thing that's not a battle, so that's great.
Well, I know with Grant, he seems to actually enjoy doing it. There's no fight about it because it's like, what is going to be in the videos today? It's like this big, exploring thing.
Yeah, they don't actually have to open a book. It's like cool to get on the internet, get to YouTube.
Yeah.
It's fun, because when I had the kids do the all about me survey, just pick like random things from kids. And so, which is why last night was Sprite and Chinese food, because that's apparently something that a lot of the class. Sprite is the most common beverage of choice in this class, just in case you were ever curious. I was like,
Right, because none of us will give them Coke.
and I thank you for not giving them caffeine. So overall, it seems to be going well from what you guys are saying. So I appreciate the feedback. We'll keep doing it. And tonight's video was actually made by students, so that's a pretty cool one. By the end of the year, I'll hope that every student has been able to make a video.
The thing I like most about it is that he can rewind it as many times as he wants and watch it over and over, and that's just helpful. I don't, I job real easy, because I don't do that much.
It also helps that I can rewind it and figure out what it is he's supposed to be doing, so when I'm helping, I actually can.
Can't learn it either.
Yeah.
I actually realized I remember more math than I thought I remembered, so.
Yeah.
Well, and Lattice was right
Lattice.
through our household for
Thank
the
you.
first, I had to school the other parent.
Yeah.
So watch this later.
Hopefully, and we did just start on long division, which is kind of going to be the most challenging subject for this advisory, and a lot of them are picking up on it really quickly. I have some students who today was our third day with it, already can pretty much, I gave them like 3 problems and I said, do these for me. But as long as you can see, it's still on my hand from this morning, 5 different steps of long division. Red Sharpie doesn't go on your hand easily. I'm more Sharpie than man at this point. But it sounds like it's going good. So then, after I'm done with this slide, we will launch into all the different reading information, and then at the end, we'll just have, if you have any questions, so write them down as they come to you, and I think that's pretty much it. Including the reading information, I'll have a bunch of different resources that you can be using at home to help those ones that we are using in class that you can extend it into home. So in your folder, you have a lot of different things. The first, if I have these all, they might not necessarily be in the right order, but this one's missing stuff, so I'll use a different one. All right, in your folder, you will have a reading summary that looks like this. It's just a table with kind of breaks down all the different papers into one easy sheet. You'll have a parent report that looks like this. It's a 1-page paper. You'll have one that's called an instructional planning report. That is a 2-sided paper. Ms. Williams, I have to get you marks on this. I'll tell you later on. It's not bad. You will have a sample, one of the stapled things, a sample reading benchmark story, which we'll talk about why that's in there. And then you will have the student benchmark report, which looks like this. You will have a reading packet, which is, I couldn't remember what it was called when I was making this, but it's called Parent's Guide to Reading. And then finally, you will have technology information, which a lot of students have requested that I send another one home for all their different websites. So you now have a copy. Don't lose this, because I can always print more, but it makes my job a little easier so I don't have to keep printing. So we're going to go through each of those papers and really break down what each means, how you can use each one. Some of them might look a little overwhelming and the numbers might look a little strange, but we'll talk about it. So to go through the reading summary, which is, I just had it, the big table here, there are 4 different things on it, which probably should have put them in the same order on here that it is on here, but I didn't. So the first thing that's on here is this 3rd grade SOL score, which, like I've said in past nights, the SOL is not the main goal to me, but it just wanted to make sure you had all the relevant reading data I had about them. If it's below 400, that means that it was a basic score. Between 400 to 500 is proficient. Above 500 would be an advanced score. That just gives me, that's kind of the first bit of data I ever get about your child and their ability to reading. I don't necessarily put all my faith, I shouldn't say necessarily, I don't put all my faith into that number. That just gives me a good starting ground. So that kind of summarizes how they did on the couple days that they were doing the SOL in 3rd grade. The STAR rating assessment, that gives me their grade level equivalency. That was taken on the 3rd day of school. So that's how they started the year. We will take it again in either December or January. I don't know when the actual window will be when we take it. And then again in April, May, or June. It's reported as a number that is like, for instance, like 4.2. That means 4th grade equivalent 2 months in is how that number is reported. So that's what their reading level was at the very start of the school year. And that's just another bit of data that I can kind of help understand where your child lies with reading. The first advisory reading grade is the grade that went on the report card. And to kind of talk about how that reading grade came about, our grades are based on 60% are the assessments, so those are the more targeted different assessments that have come home, like there was a main idea one, a fact and opinion one, and then the reading benchmark from the first advisory. The little reading passenger quizzes, which we take either weekly, bi-weekly, or every 3 weeks, in addition to the reading, or not the reading, their vocabulary quizzes, that figures for 20% of the grade, and then their book project, which you can see out in the hall, all their movie posters, blog posts, cereal box, whatever they happen to choose last advisory, which was awesome looking at all this, that figures for 20% of their things. So you see the bulk of the grade obviously comes from the assessments, so those are more, but it's, you know, everything has a piece of the puzzle. And then the first advisory reading benchmark, which we took on the 16th, so 2 weeks from tomorrow. The benchmarks are that we take one in every subject area at the end of every quarter, with the exception in fourth quarter when we have the SQLs that replaces the benchmarks. Those benchmarks are used to help me guide instruction. So we'll look at the class summary, the item analysis, and so I'll be able to see targeted areas like, okay, the class has been doing really well on this, they haven't been so well on this, so I need to obviously instruct more on, for instance, like main idea or fact and opinion. And then I can also break it down and look at each child, saying which you have each child's different data analysis. So if we look at the parent reading report, which is the one-pager thing, this kind of gives you just an overview of the student's reading level. This is one different assessment that we do to try to get a student's reading level. One thing to consider that it is a timed assessment. So I don't know exactly what the time frame is, but if they take too long on a question, it will time them out and say, you know, like mark that question wrong, and then it varies the test as they're going along. So if there's a number that's like shockingly lower or shockingly higher than you would see, that's why the time frame. Some students they might read really slowly but comprehend really well. So that's kind of when the time works against them. Or if they know that it's a timed assessment and they think, oh, I just need to rush through this. I didn't tell them that this was a timed assessment. I don't plan on telling them that it's a timed assessment. But if they take too long and it times them out of a question, they obviously realize that there's a time frame involved. So that gives me kind of somewhat of a baseline to understand where they are. There are a couple of different acronyms on there. If you look to the immediate right of the little bar thing in the middle, it says IRL. That's their independent reading level. That means that is the level that they should be reading at about 80% proficiency. So if they pick up, like if they have an IRL of 4.0, they pick up a book that's written on a fourth grade level, they should be 80% accurate at that level, which is a good 80%. Means that it's not too easy, it's not too hard, it's just kind of just right. The ZPD, which is all the way to the right, that means zone of proximal development. That basically just means that books from the lower end, so for instance, if it's like 3.1 all the way up to 4.7, that means books in that span will be the optimal level for that student to be reading. And it just helps them that the 3.1 might be easy for them, but it'll kind of help them warm up, while the 4.7 will push them to the next level. So it's going to be, the IRL is going to be pretty much dead in the middle of that ZPD. Those are just acronyms. You don't really need to learn those acronyms. Just understand what those different numbers mean. The PR, which is all the way to the left, is the percentile rank. And that basically takes all the students across the entire nation who took this particular assessment and says how your child performed in comparison to those other child. So 50 means that there was a PR percentile rank of 50, means that 50% of the students didn't do as well as your child and 50% did better. So that means they'd be right in the middle. So like something in the 90s would mean that they would be ranked higher than the students, something lower. And that's not necessarily, those numbers don't really mean a bad thing or a good thing. Those are just different numbers. So this page also, under the little table, it does break down all those different acronyms I just told you. So talking really fast and you didn't understand what I said, it's all written down there for you nice and easily. And then again, this is just a snapshot of their reading level. No one assessment is ever going to be perfect to really understand where your child is. It's more the working with the child to really understand, because there are some students who on this might say like a second grade reading level, but then when you're working with them, they're reading much higher, or it could also be the reverse. So this is just kind of a snapshot to kind of understand where your child started at. All right, so this is the instructional planning report. So report for star reading, that is the double-sided page. The top of this page is kind of a summary of that parent report page. The things I want to focus on these pages are the bars all the way down to the suggested skills, because what the bars show is the top one is obviously the most recent test, the one taken in August, and that shows where they currently are, and then it shows that their projected score, that's with optimal amount of work if they're working their hardest, trying their best, all that kind of stuff. Could obviously the projected growth could be higher at the end of the year or lower depending on the amount of work they're putting in, the amount of support they're getting, and everything. So that just kind of has an idea of kind of growth that you would hope to see from your child. This is just an example one that I pulled off of the website. And so you can see that obviously, hopefully, all the lines will go up by the end of the year. The thing that I find really helpful from this instructional planning report, which obviously this is kind of geared toward, the first one's obviously the parent report. This one is kind of geared more towards the teacher, but I still did provide this one to you because it provides a lot of strategies and skills that you can work on at home with your child. Every single one is individualized to your specific child. So it has the suggested skills, and it says the first one's going to be vocabulary. It's going to say skills that will help your child move on in vocabulary. So it will say stuff about context clues, synonyms, antonyms, prefixes, suffixes, all of that kind of stuff. And then it'll say different things that they can do to do with literary text, which is fictional texts, fictional books. Then it'll also tell them what to do in nonfiction text, so stories that are true. So that will give you things that they need to do.
See what it says.
Yeah. So that'll give you different ideas on skills they need to work on. And then in either the homeschool connection that we had last month, which focused on inferences, main idea, and author's purpose, you could go back and watch that video. Or going forward with the different homeschool connection nights, you'll be able to see what your child needs based on this report and really kind of pick and choose either which nights to come to or which nights will be most beneficial, because all of them will be beneficial, and I'd love to see all of you here. And then the last one is just different things to help with communication, speaking, literacy, and media literacy. So those are, again, two different snapshots, but the suggested skills are going to really be target and individualize what your child needs. And that is pretty targeted. That's going to say exactly what your child needs. Regardless of what the numbers said at the top, a lot of those skills, when I was looking through them as I was training them, are exactly what your particular student does need to achieve their growth in reading. So what we're going to do now is the reading benchmark has been provided to you, their first story of it, just so it is the stapled packet that is George Washington Carver's Dream. This is the first story from the first advisory benchmark, and we don't call it the benchmark in the classroom because the students know that that's something that causes stress. So we were actually just calling it a Ross opportunity because they took it online, and the website they had to go onto was called Ross. So I said, okay, it's time to take your reading, your math, whatever, Ross opportunity. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to actually read through the story and then do the questions, just so you get kind of an understanding of what the child, the students take when they're taking an opportunity. So I'll shut up for the next 10 or so minutes and let you do it. And we will not share scores or anything, so don't.
They'll get our reports tomorrow. And I want you to identify this one from the back of a book.
have some stuff to answer.
We can't go back.
You can always look
Oh, we can't. I couldn't remember.
You-
So,
back. What I tell the students, you better be looking back.
I can't remember. Oh, that's good, because I thought it was on the computer and you could look back. Because I don't know what that means, if I'm a foreigner, I don't know. What does this mean? I know what it means. So, ever,
Which, that was the lowest scored question.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, he doesn't see how his prescription. That's awesome. I'll show that house. That's how it works. quickly to go through the answers. We want to check how you all did. Number 1, the answer is B. That's a homophone question. Number 2 is H, which is a synonym question, and we'll go through how the class answered. Number 3 is A, which is kind of a character description. Number 4 is F, which is a sequencing question. Number 5 is B, which is a context clue / multiple meaning words question. Number 6 is F, which is author's purpose question. Number 7 is D, which is kind of an inference question. Number 8 is H, and that is a detail question basically. Number 9 is B. Those kind of questions are kind of difficult for students to answer, and that will form kind of the basis of a future homeschool connection night. Number 10 is J. Number 11 is B. And number 12 is H, select. Simple predicate is just a fancy way of saying verb.
I'm gonna be taking my kids' test from now on.
So that's just kind of give you a little snapshot of, they had an additional story that I don't want to make you take the whole thing, but I think the next slide kind of breaks down how this class scored. So, I was right. It does break down how the class scored. This is our benchmark. Number 1, the Rouse opportunity, which we just took. Story number 1 is the narrative nonfiction, which means it's telling a story, but it's a true story. And you see, we went through it. We see the biggest question that the class missed as a whole. I'll break this down for you. The green is obviously the correct answer, and then each number inside is what percentage of the class answered that, and then the total column is the total percent of correct for the class. On your copy, which is broken down for just your student, which if I could find this one, I would show you. Okay, yeah, this one. If it is in the total column, if it says 100, that means they got the question correct. If it says 0, that means the question was incorrect. The star is in the grid. The star is the correct answer for that particular question. And then the very bottom right corner is the test total. Don't judge me, I know my lesson tomorrow. So you see this in story 1. Overall, there were only 2 that were red and orange. Merger the orange are the colors that aren't the nice ones to see. The white and yellow are the good colors. Multiple meaning word, because puzzle means 2 different things. It means to figure out, and it means the thing you put together. And it also means a problem. Multiple meaning words are always going to be kind of tricky. Simple predicate, that was, we very briefly touched on it because, as I heard some of you say, simple predicate is not something you encounter in a daily life. We call them nouns and verbs. Apparently, simple predicate is something that the state thinks they should know. We're all adults here, and I think we've gotten through life pretty well without necessarily knowing what a simple predicate is. So, not a big deal. In story 2, which was a poem, was about a mouse who kept having to move out of his home because he was really messy. Sounds kind of like my life. You see, they struggled a little bit more as a class on this. Main idea is always going to be a tricky skill. Like I said in the last homeschool connection night, that's kind of having them, I don't particularly remember off the top of my head if that was the main idea of a particular paragraph or of the whole story, but main idea is always hard for them to really figure out. Sequence, that can be kind of difficult because, especially if it says before or after, it might give them the particular, it was something before or the something after, and they have to figure out which one. The which line, you see the which line, and the question, well, they actually do pretty well in that question answer. But the which line ones, those are always a little bit trickier, and we will go over that more extensively in the future, both in class and at the parent classes. And then we see the grammar skills. Which one is a sentence to phrase? That kind of goes back to in class. We do talk about what's a complete sentence, what's an incomplete sentence. I actually have a sign here that when the students are answering questions, if they don't answer me in a full sentence, I hold that sign up and then they repeat the question in a full sentence. So they know it as a full sentence or not a full sentence. And we did talk on it, like the phrase versus complete sentence. So that's just one thing. Cause and effect, I was very impressed. That's an open-ended question where it asks them, write a cause and effect relationship from this tone. And we see overall the class did very well on that, which I was very impressed with, because cause and effect can be a tricky skill because they might mix up the cause and the effect and kind of reverse it. That's probably something we'll be going over. I don't remember if it's the next one in December or January or whatever. But you see, another thing to keep in mind is over the past couple of years when I've been teaching, I always see story 1 is normally average overall is much stronger than story 2, and then eventually when that gets into story 3, that's simply just test fatigue. The students get very worn out because we have a very active classroom and we're not doing a lot of sitting and taking tests that often, other than at the end of the advisory when we've all waited till the last minute. Question?
What's the rationale for why some of the selections are A, B, C, D and others are F onward?
It's just the SOL at the end of the year will be A, B, C, D, and some will be F, G, H, J. I honestly don't know.
Is that
why.
to prevent them from focusing on one letter only? And
It might be. That's honestly the first time I've
The
heard.
college answer C. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like anything they taught you in college, like if you're not sure, answer C.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. That's something that's just, as far as I know, just in Virginia, because I came from Pennsylvania. I've never seen it, but it's just kind of a weird thing. Might be something interesting for me to look up and look up. But it's but they get confused because when they're taking online, they can only type in A, B, C, D, even if it's F, G, H, J, and so I write up more like F actually means A, G, so. Yeah. So, but it is kind of strange. I don't really know why, but that is like because at the end of the year when they have their SOL, they will see F, G, H, J. But what you said there, that C is always a common answer, that might be true. But you see this is all scattered around anyways. So overall, first benchmark, they did, as a class, pretty well. There weren't too many ones where the class, I mean, obviously they do really well synonyms with inferences, which I was very thrilled with because, like I said, inference is a skill that's kind of hard for students. But you see, but then when I look at this, I see, okay, we need work on main idea, we need work on sequence. I knew we were going to need work on those 2 questions. This just kind of guides my instruction. I know, okay, we probably don't really have to spend much more time on synonyms because not 4% of the class can get, which basically breaks down to 1 student. So I'll figure out who that 1 student is, kind of work with them, make sure they know. But like detail, that means they're pretty good at looking back in the story to a detail. Question answer, that one was one I was expecting to be the orange or red. They actually did pretty well on that, so that was good. And then these grammar type questions, I know we have to go over because some of them, it's just the way they phrase them. I guarantee if it would have said which word in the sentence is a verb versus which is a simple predicate, that would not be a 50. That would be much higher. So that's what I do when we take the benchmarks. I kind of look at it and see where I need to guide the instruction. So every year ends up being a little bit different because every class needs something different. So at the end of second advisory, we'll do the same kind of thing. We'll kind of look through it. And the third advisory, we'll do the same thing. There's not a reading benchmark within the fourth advisory. Well, this brings us to the resources. They are all resources that are available on my website under the resource tab. You do have all of the login information that your student will need on this paper. I did put, well, this is just the reading night. I also did put all the math all the math websites on there too, just because it's important to do the math stuff at home. Read Theory is an excellent website. It's going to give them kind of like the benchmark, a story, questions. They can look back to the story. They should be looking back to the story to find their answer. One of the biggest habits I want them to get into is always look back to the story no matter what, because you might know without definitive, some of the questions like that homophone one, but you don't really need to look back to the story. But if it's something about the story, it's never going to hurt to look back to the story because that's how they're going to prove their answer, justify the answer. So many of them will highlight, well, all of them should be highlighting or writing a little one-sentence explanation why you chose that answer. So Read Theory is going to be a lot like this. The students actually really like Read Theory because it's kind of a gamified website where they get points based on how well they're doing, and then they move up in ranks from, I don't know what the very last one is, or the very top one is. The last one's even like, want to say it's like Master Scholar, and I have kids come up to me like every single day saying, look what level I'm at now. And I'm like, oh, good. Like, I'm gonna have to find a new website because you're gonna get to Master Scholar before Christmas, which is awesome. But it will differentiate for your child. So it's not based solely on 4th grade. If your child does really well on a couple like 4th grade level passages, it'll bump them up to 5th grade. And then it'll kind of try to find that middle ground where they are doing really well and not doing so well. And kind of like that ZPD thing I was talking about earlier, where it'll constantly push them and drop them back. I want to say there's about 5 questions per story. The first 3 to 4, depending what level your child's on, will be what they just call like a regular question. And the last 1 or 2 will be a challenge question, will be a higher level question. Most of them, when I'm watching them do it or I sit there and do them with them, will require them to look back, especially those challenge questions. And a lot of the time, without even prompting them, I will see them click back to the story. And I'll ask them, I'll be like, well, why'd you do that? And they're like, well, I wasn't quite sure on my answer, so I wanted to go back and look. And I was like, awesome, I didn't actually have to like hit you in the back of the head and say, go look back. But it's awesome to see that. Moby Max is another website. That is going to be for both math and reading. Reading, it's going to break it down into fictional text, non-fictional text, just a reading level assessment, and there's a writing thing on there. And then on math, there's a fact master thing, there's a math thing. And there's also science and social studies on there. It's basically a whole online curriculum type thing. Personally, I like Moby Max for the reading a lot more than I like for the math, because the math, it kind of sets their level and makes them work up to wherever the program aligns itself. So it doesn't always align with what we're doing in class, but Moby Max, and sometimes for math at least, can be a good review for past skills. But Moby Max and reading, if you're noticing on your the instructional planning report that you see that the student needs some work on literacy skills, or not literacy, literary skills, you can put them on the fiction stories, and if you see they need some work on the nonfiction stories, you can put them on the nonfiction ones. So Read Theory and Moby Max we use in class a lot. There is a group of kids on them every day. By the end of the week, every kid is on Read Theory at least 2 or 3 times a week. Every kid is on Moby Max 2 or 3 times a week. There's another website on my resource page called Mr. Nussbaum, and that has that's another really good website. It has all sorts of different games for every subject area, for every grade level imaginable. It's actually a teacher from Virginia who started his own website, and he's got like online reading passages kind of like that. We haven't used them this much this year, but they have used them past years and they enjoy it. Mr. Nussbaum, you don't need a login for. If it tries to make you pay for something, don't, because you can do all the stuff that you need to for free. You can purchase a subscription or whatever you choose to, but you don't need to. Read Theory and Moby Max, they do need logins, which they are already paid for through the school, which they have on that paper. Question?
Which website is Mr. Nussbaum?
It's not going to be on that page, because there is no login for that. It's just on the resource page. It's like resource D maybe. I don't know. I don't know all the letters off the top of my head, but they're all on there. The VDOE, which is the Virginia Department of Education, that has released SOLs from past year practice items that'll kind of give your child and you ideas of what the state is expecting reading wise. We work those in throughout the year, not telling them like this is a practice SOL. We'll just be like it's a reading passage. Resources not available on my website are physical books. It's a website and not a physical thing. But books are going to be the best resource for helping you try to grow in reading. And I say that a book that they're interested in with the support is going to be a lot better than the level to help them grow. Because, for instance, those Minecraft books, those Minecraft handbooks, which are, I don't know, 7 of them now, those books are written at higher level, especially I have a lot of pictures in them, but some of the words and the phrases they'll use, especially the made-up Minecraft words, which is kind of weird to say those are higher level. But if the kids are interested in them, I need to order more copies for the classroom because they're always wanting to have each other's. But versus a book that might be on, if their level is like a 4.2 and you find a 4.2 level book, and that's not fun to them, they're going to put it down. When we've been talking about getting ready for our student-led conferences, one of the biggest things that I've been seeing the kids have said is that the one thing that they need to work on in reading is finding books that interest them, because they say, I can read, but then I can't find books. Like, it doesn't keep my interest, so then I don't understand what's going on, which is kind of the problem with a lot of these passages. That passage, I would say, would be one of the better, at least has a good story to it. It's not just George Washington Carver was born, That one at least has like a nice story and like nice theme to it. But books that they are interested in, regardless of level, if you see your child pick up a book that seems to be well above their level, don't tell them to put it down. Sit there, read it with them, find an audiobook of it, something. Somehow let them engage in that text, because that's going to be, the interest level is going to be really the key point in helping them grow in reading, because we can do all these strategies and talk about their levels to death. Trust me, we do sometimes in meetings, but their interest level is going to be what sparks that level of reading, and once they have that level of reading, it's going to be so much easier to get them to excel in reading. The other staple packet in your folder, which we are not going to go through today, but if you're reading through this and you have questions, feel free to shoot me an email or call me or class message or send a carrier pigeon, however you want to contact me. That's going to give you a bunch of ideas for both specific skills, just reading in general, fluency, comprehension, all sorts of different things to help your child. So read through that and use what you want of it. There's a lot of good information. There are also some information in there that's not as important as others. Specifically, the stuff on fluency. While fluency does have a place, I'm more concerned about if the child is understanding what they read, because I have students who read very, very slowly, but understand every single word they have just read. But I also have students who read what'd you just read? Words. The middle ground is obviously optimal, but if it's a student who reads slow, I'm okay with that. If it's a student who reads fast but is understanding, I'm okay with that. There are certain benchmarks that we're supposed to have to meet, but I don't really worry too much on the fluency, the word per minute, because it's all what's going to be best for that child. So the bottom line from this evening is that they need to be engaging with literature, which can look very different. It can be they can be reading a book by themselves in their bedroom. They can be reading a book to someone, a younger sibling, you, the dog, the cat, anything, a stuffed animal for all I care. They can be listening to reading from someone, or they can be listening to an audiobook. If they're listening to someone read or they're listening to an audiobook, the only thing I ask is that they do have a physical copy of the book in front of them so they can connect the sounds with the print, because audiobooks are great, but they need to advance them in their reading level, they also do need to be seeing the printed word. I personally will listen to audiobooks all the time while I'm driving to and from work. I don't read the book while I'm driving, because that would end badly for everybody involved. But obviously your children are not driving, so if you want to pop in an audiobook while you're driving, they can have the book in front of them. If they have motion sickness, don't do that though, because I won't get me your email later. But every single day for at least 20 minutes, obviously, I think I said at the beginning of the year at the back to school night, I showed you that little chart, which is available on my website somewhere. The kind of the percentile, how more minutes of reading per night has been proven to bring up the different levels of the students. So bottom line, they do need to be reading. They also need to be seeing you reading too, because a good example does wonders, because if we're trying to show the students that reading can be fun, reading is awesome, reading is great, they also need to see, I mean, you can tell them that as much as you want, but if they're not seeing it, they're not going to believe it. That's one thing I really want to do more in the classroom. If we're having some read self-time, I would love to bring in my books and just sit with them and read them, but there's always 13,000 other things I need to do. In addition to a book, I read books about World War II, and the covers aren't always exactly the great things to bring into school. But just anything you're reading, whether it's, I mean, you could be reading on a Kindle, an iPad, whatever, a newspaper, just as long as they are seeing you reading, that will, in their mind, show them that there is value in reading and that it's not something that is going away. But, I mean, you could make this into, like I said, you could make it into family activity. Maybe after dinner, if you have time, or before dinner, whenever you have dinner, or whenever you have dinner, at the dinner table, or I'm just kidding, don't do that. Yeah, on the weekends, just whenever you have time, just make it a family activity. Everybody sits in the room together or goes to their own rooms and read. You can read as a family. You can pair off, whatever but reading is going to be very important because that's going to be the thing that's going to make the difference. And it might be an uphill battle to try to find what that book that they are interested in is going to be. I hated reading up until 3rd grade, and then that's around when the first Harry Potter book was released, and I read that book. Just made myself probably sound younger than I am.
No, we know. There was a flip video about that, remember?
Yes. But I read that. I read the first Harry Potter book, and I have the entire series, and I love that. And I've fallen in love with reading ever since. I think I started keeping track just for my own enjoyment. I've read like 20 books since August just because I enjoy reading. So obviously, if you can portray to your students that reading is a fun activity, and you find a book that they are interested in, that will then make them get more interested in books that aren't interesting to them, because they'll start with the interest, they will see that reading isn't as bad because they're interested in, then that will help them to expose to different books. So Matt Christopher, I know, is always a popular series for boys and girls too, but they have most of my main characters are boys. Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, all those books are going to be great, but it's not going to be like you're not going to walk in the library and be like, oh, it's going to be this book. Like, you might have to do it, but you just don't give up on it, because there is a book out there for every single child, and I know that every single child will find that book, and every single child does have that ability to have a love of reading. So, do we have any questions before I read through this mess? Yes?
For the current studies on the website, it doesn't work for my computer. Could you send a link, email me a link to it?
I will fix it right now, because I just realized.
Tim was like, did he publish?
Yeah, I did.
I just realized every time I put something on the website, I forget I have to turn one setting on Google Drive, and I forgot to make it public, but that will be taken care of in about 30 seconds.
Okay, and also for the classroom calendar, I noticed that the agenda works, but the classroom calendar beside it doesn't work on my computer. Is that another thing, or do you all do that? Like, I was looking to see what time the meeting was tonight, and I assumed that would have been on there, but I couldn't find anything.
Let me check. I think the classroom calendar has been. I think I had, because I ran into that problem last year that I didn't have shared right. That pops up to me fine. If someone can check on the Chromebook, if it pops up to you fine, if you go to my website and go to calendar.
Maybe it's just my computer, because I see on hers before.
So that should be just a thing. For these kind of meetings, I try to send it through Class Messenger 47 times. Sorry, I just want to make sure that they're
So
aware.
we can send messages back to 47.
Yes. Any other questions? Good questions. I'm glad you said that, because the current study should work now.
I have another. How do you suggest breaking this up? Because I know Talon would rather get on the computer and do his math with, like the reflex math. He wants to do it every night, but obviously there is reading to work on too. How do you suggest breaking it up between 5 nights?
I would
or
say,
6?
obviously the kids really love reflex math.
Yeah.
I would say that they have X amount of minutes for reflex, then after they've done X amount of minutes or X amount of stories on read theory or any of those websites, then they can go back to reflex math.
Okay.
So I would, or you could break it up per day. You could say on Sunday, be like, I want 3 nights to be spent on reading, 3 nights to be spent on math. You decide. Obviously, I think it would be more beneficial to do both every evening. So it's just, but just talk with Talon and see because we do the same kind of thing in class. I said, okay, you want to do reflex? We had a big class discussion because they had spent like 4 days straight on reflex. And I was like, guys, there are other math stations. So I said, like, once you have done reflex, because there will be a green light that goes
It's
on.
20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes. That means that they've done their daily usage, and it's not going to give them any new facts after that.
So it doesn't give any new facts.
Now, reflex is set up to make sure that, because if you try to throw 400 facts at them in one day, they're not going to remember them. It only gives them X amount of new facts plus review facts.
Okay.
But reflex else is really cool that's on there too on the technology sheet. But that's how I personally do structured class. Like you can do X amount of minutes on this or X amount of problems. Once you're done with that, move to something else, and then you can finish out with what you're enjoying. Any other questions? Okay. So everything that I just talked about, make sure you take this home and go through the stuff with your child. Obviously, I would caution you on calling it a benchmark. I don't want them to get overwhelmed by it. We call them opportunities because I tell them that it's an opportunity for them to show me what they know. All the instructional planning report will tell you what skills they need to work on and all those different resources. Next month's homeschool connection nights in November. I don't have the dates picked up yet. It's going to be similar to this evening. We will kind of talk about the child's level. I don't have necessarily as much data on math level because it's not as cut and dry, as easy to figure out as a reading level because they might be strong in like division, but not strong in geometry. So you can't really say a standardized level. But we will talk about the benchmark review, and we'll start talking about geometry, which is going to be our next math topic after we keep rolling with long division. The next reading homeschool connection night, which depending on how November goes, it might be bumped to early December just because with Thanksgiving coming in there, it might throw off plans a little bit. But the next one will be targeted more on specific skills, most likely sequencing, cause and effect, and word skills. On Tuesday will be our student-led conferences. The kids have been working really, really hard on them. I sent pictures today. They're very excited for you guys to come see, and they came up with little scripts of what they're going to say to you. It will be a really fun experience. It'll be the first time that we're doing it in the classroom. But the students will pretty much lead the thing. They'll introduce you to me to you, even though I know you. They'll go through stuff they're doing well in school, things that they need help on, in both their learning and their behavior. They'll share a goal with you, both an academic goal and a behavioral goal. They also have something that if they want to share anything else, which I said, please try to share something about school. And some kids are like, I like football, I'll roll with it. And then at the end, they will have time for questions where you can ask them a question, which I encourage you to ask questions. We're practicing answering questions or practicing with partners. They're asking questions. Then you also have time to obviously ask me questions. I've been encouraging the students to act like little professionals. So if they have like a little shirt, tie, or a dress, or a polo shirt, I just think it'd be cool. But I'll send a paper home on Monday. Yeah, it has to be Monday, can't be Tuesday. I'll send paper home on Monday, just again confirming your time, even though I emailed most of your times, and just a couple other tips for that. So if you haven't filled out the conference form, if you haven't filled it out, I sent home a paper copy with your child tonight, and I also sent out the online link to everybody, which the choice eliminator thing ended up crashing, so it didn't work how I wanted it to. But any last minute questions? Okay, if you're following along on the presentation, just go to the next slide where it says feedback slip, and then fill that out, and I will stop the recording now.